And welcome everyone to another Smart Money Circle episode. I'm Adam Sarhan. With me today is Brian Lee, who's a Vice President of Sales at BL Wealth Management. Firm-wide has about 600 million in AUM or assets under management. Brian, thank you so much for taking the time and welcome to the Smart Money Circle.
Thank you, Adam. Pleasure to be here.
So Brian, I always like to begin. Can you please tell us your story and how you got to where you are today?
Sure. So I've been fortunate to be in this space for 25 years. A lot of people enter this space by accident. That was me. So I started in the technology space and recognized that I wanted to be not in transactional sales, but relationship-led sales, and that led me to the financial services space 25 years ago. And so I worked for a mid-market company out of the Midwest for starters. Started my own agency from scratch, built to over 600 relationships, and then did two stints of sales leadership with big publicly traded companies, Fortune 500 companies, for about 7 years. And then about 3 years ago, I branched off in the independent space where I am today. And so I work across the United States now, which my model initially was just in Illinois, my home state, and so now I'm actually able to work with business owners, individuals of high net worth across the United States. So our geography has opened up, immensely. But it's been an amazing journey from, helping a myriad of different individuals and situations, but also be able to make an impact even with the younger generation, which is kind of a missed portion of our space and industry. So we're helping the next generations, going 2 and 3 generations deep now.
Wow, I
So
love that. That's a great story about how you kind of moved over. Now you're on your own, but with a group, and that's I love that
mhm.
too. So let's talk about the actual business. Please let us know what you do and some, fundamental technicals, your investment strategy, anywhere you want to go, please.
Sure. Yeah. So our hub is with Goldman Sachs, and so we have an open architecture there. So there's 50,000 underlying investments that we have at our disposal. We focus primarily on more of a Warren Buffett strategy, and so it's buying America. Is so when we're talking ETFs in terms of SPY, for instance, those are some of the strategies that we've engineered, and so we're fortunate to have Goldman Sachs Marquee system, which is a exclusive membership for all the research. And so we're looking at their data information. We're looking at using artificial intelligence, and then some newsletters that we subscribe to. So when we're making decisions for clients, we're not playing a game of darts. We have accuracy with the decisions. So a lot of our clients are on the equity side of the house, but we also do some fixed income plays as well, and then we have some risk management plays as well that will help people in different segments of life.
Wow, I love that. Okay, so from let's talk about risk. I know risk is a big piece of the puzzle for everybody, and for you, you've been around for a long time now. How do you handle risk, and what are some mistakes you see people make with respect to risk management?
Sure. With risk, I think a perfect example is 2008. A lot of people learned they thought their appetite was stronger or built for some major dips of 40% plus. Where I think I learned a lot as an advisor personally back then, but now in terms of risk, I use Riskalyze, which is actually nitrogen now, and that's a stress testing tool. So we talk about the upsides and then the downsides. So people are very well aware when we're looking at going, 99 miles an hour versus 1 mile an hour, which is insurance. The higher the miles per hour, obviously, the more risk involved, the slower the speed. And so most of our clients are going about 65 to 75 miles an hour. So it's moving along, but not not anything like crypto or Bitcoin based, which is gaining presence, across the United States. But I think there's still a little bit more that people don't understand when they're looking at risk and elements of risk.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. So when you say nitrogen and other services, there's a risk score and things of that nature. Can you just elaborate, please, so the audience can know? Let's say I'm in the audience. How should I look at risk? And just educate us a little bit about that, please.
Sure. So the risk is the volatility of the fund. So for instance, let's say we have a risk of 75 miles an hour. So some of those stocks will be 40 or 50 miles an hour. Some of those will be right at the 70. So it takes an average of all the stock positions, basically, or the mutual funds, or however you set up the lineup, and that puts the score. So there's what they call a GPA, and that's what we're focusing on. The GPA is like a college grade. So a 4.3 is the max. That's an A graded built portfolio. That means it's high quality. So you're reducing expense ratios, which is the cost to the client, right? And then, you take all that information, that collaboration together, and then that puts together a basket of stocks depending on the risk tolerance. So based on the risk tolerance, then we work backwards from there, and that derives the speed that the client wants to go, or we advise them to go.
Gotcha.
Is how it
Okay,
works.
makes perfect sense. Yeah, appreciate that. Thank you. Let's talk about some timeless lessons, Brian. What are some timeless lessons you've learned along the way that you'd like to share with the audience?
Oh boy. In regards to, I think starting early is key from the standpoint with, I think, the level of education out there right now for the younger generation. A lot of people graduate with nice degrees from nice four-year institutions, but they don't really leave with a financial education. And so I think, that's really critical from the standpoint of helping. I wish I had that experience 25, 30 years ago, when I entered into this space. Initially for my first steps, I only knew what I knew. So I think it's just really arming people with good information, getting them involved in the process, because your retirement is a designation, and that can last, 30, 40 years potentially. Um, People will spend weeks planning, their Hawaii vacation or or something, but they don't think about their livelihood, which is part of, your financial well-being, is part of your wellness overall. So just really giving people that understanding.
Yeah, and starting early is really powerful. So let's talk about the other side of that, some timeless mistakes, well, that you've learned that you've seen other people make, and how do you avoid them?
I think a lot of people are unaware of, budgets. I had a client a few years back that, mid 60s, never done a budget in their life. People are not really consciously aware of what's coming in and what's going out. The two biggest addictions that exist, and everybody's aware of these: Amazon and DoorDash. They're convenient, they're easy, but people don't realize when they're swiping their credit card or their debit card that the cost of 20, 30, 40, $50 transactions, $100 transactions, how quickly that adds up over the course of the month. So I think the devil in the room in a lot of situations is discretionary income. It's how we choose to manage those assets is what determines people from having a successful, future versus unsuccessful. The old saying, living below your means or within your means, not above. So getting people more consciously aware.
Of their subscriptions and their out expenses going out and all that kind of
The
stuff. You're
whole
right.
gamut. Yes.
Yeah, the whole gamut. I love it. Okay. Next question. Let's talk about leadership. You've been around some great leaders. You're a leader. What makes a great leader? And what are some lessons you've learned about leadership that you'd like to share with the audience?
I think first and foremost, it's about being approachable as a leader. I think, when we take the spreadsheets away, the corporate agendas and everything, it's engagement and the human connection, right? It's about connecting. When I've been in leadership throughout my tenure, I've taken interest in the person as a human being first and foremost. We have lives outside of our work, which is important. I know that we're there to perform a task or a function, but I think sometimes if we recognize just the little personal touches, hey, how was your weekend? How your kid's baseball game? How did it go the other night? Or, how's your daughter's cheerleading, camp going? Those are things that really mean a lot to people. And I think, in the times that we want them to push a little bit extra, they'll remember that we took the time to remember them as a human being first. And I think that unfortunately has been a disconnect, in some of our environments, where, how we treat others is how we get what we get back in return. So it's a mutual respect of, there's times that we're going to have to push us up a little bit, and there's times we can back down a little bit. But I found that to be very helpful, in my leadership, in my time.
How about adversity? How do you handle adversity? And what are some mistakes you see people or obstacles you had to overcome or mistakes you see people make with adversity? Anything along those lines, please.
Yeah. So the last firm I joined prior, um, I was there for about 2.5 months, and they announced a commission reduction, which that never goes over well with the sales team that's compensated on performance based. And so the message was not, it was pushed down from the corporate higher up folks, and they let us, make the announcement or the adjustments basically of what. And so what I did to kind of mitigate the kind of the negative connotation that was going to associated with, let's talk about this individually, you guys, in terms of how, let's look at your numbers from the past, and let's talk about kind of what that will look like for you, and then what's involved to get you at least above or beyond that. And so that's what we ended up doing, is meeting with each of the individuals, going through the specific situations. And it really wasn't that horrific as that, they hear a reduction, oh, that means I have to do more work and for less, for less. And, how is that motivating? And so, we handled it to the best of our abilities.
Love that. And then as far as the best piece of advice, Brian, that you'd like to give the audience or your 30-year-old self.
Surround yourself with people that are smarter than you, that are willing to pull you up. And I think it's really the top 5 people that you associate is what you become. So if you're wanting to be a millionaire or a billionaire, you got to associate with people that are going to bring you upwards. And I think that is one of the life lessons I've learned, is the people I've associated with now versus 20 years ago. I have a different perspective and a different outcome overall. As your life evolves, so does your relationships as well.
Yeah, no, I love that. All right, Brian. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. This was great. Congrats on your success, and hopefully we'll have you on again soon.
Thank you.